All right, this is chapter 4 in Stolen Children. Elise Edgerton left her mother's hospital room reluctantly. She wished she could remain through the evening to make sure her mom was comfortable and to be there when the doctor made his evening rounds. But she had promised Amy she'd be home by 6, and even though the girl was highly recommended and seemed capable, she had never stayed with Kendra before. Mrs. Edgerton wanted to be home in time to give Kendra her dinner and bath. She dialed her home number on her cell phone as she walked across the hospital parking garage to her car, intending to let Amy know she was on her way. It rang 5 times. And then the voicemail service picked up the call. Mrs. Edgerton hung up. Amy and Kendra must be outside, she thought. Maybe they're playing ball or Kendra's digging in the sandbox. As she drove home, she made plans for the next day. If everything had gone well today and Kendra seemed happy with her new sitter, Mrs. Edgerton would see if Amy could babysit again tomorrow. The garage opened directly into the family room. The sliding door stood open, so Mrs. Edgerton walked out to the patio. She glanced at the sandbox. Kendra's yellow bucket and shovel were planted in the sand, but she didn't see Kendra. Hello, she called him. Home. There was no answer. Mrs. Edgerton frowned. Why had Amy left the sliding glass door open? If she wasn't close by. Mrs. Edgerton walked past the pool and looked toward Kendra's swing set. Hello, she called again. Where's my girl? Usually when Mrs. Edgerton arrived home, Kendra came running from wherever she had been playing, shouting, Mommy, Mommy! She always wrapped her hands around her mother's legs and insisted that her mother give Tubby a hello kiss. Now the house was quiet. Too quiet. Mrs. Edgerton went back inside and up the stairs to Kendra's room. Her daughter's favorite blanket was in a heap on the bed, so she had taken a nap. Maybe they went for a walk, Mrs. Edgerton thought. Maybe Amy had taken Kendra around the block. But surely she would not have left the house without locking the doors. That open sliding door did not seem right. A lump of dread formed in Mrs. Edgerton's throat as she went back downstairs into the family room. This time, her eyes swept across the countertops and she saw a piece of notebook paper lying beside the sink. Oh, thank goodness. Amy had left a note. Letting out her breath in relief, she reached for the paper. The handwriting was messy. The paper itself looked as if it had been crumpled, thrown away, and then retrieved. We have your daughter. You'll get a video to prove she's okay. Do not call the police. Do nothing until the video arrives. It will contain your instructions. Mrs. Edgerton's hand shook so hard the paper rattled. She leaned against the counter to steady herself. Someone had kidnapped her child. She dialed her husband's cell phone. By the time he answered, she was crying so hard she could hardly talk. Kendra's gone, she sobbed. Someone stole Kendra. How? He said. What happened? Mrs. Edgerton took a deep breath and then told him everything started with her mom breaking her leg. So where's the new sitter? I don't know. She isn't here. Maybe the kidnappers took her too. Or maybe she was in on the plot. I don't think so. She's young, and Mrs. Montague recommended her as the best student in the babysitting class. Kurt, what are we going to do? The note says not. We should start by calling the police. This note says not to. The part is in capital letters. I don't care if it's painted in gold. We have to call the police. We can't deal with this by ourselves. The kidnapper might hurt Kendra. If we don't do what he says, we might not get her back. We can't sit around and wait for a video to be delivered. That could take a couple of days. And meanwhile, we don't know where our daughter is and what's happening to her. They could take her to a foreign country. Mrs. Edgerton choked back a sob. You're right, she said. We're wasting time. I'm going to hang up, call the police. I'll call you back after I talk to them. I'll get a flight home yet tonight. There was a click as the call disconnected. Mrs. Edgerton called 911, then told the emergency operator who she was and what had happened. While she waited for the police to arrive, she looked through the house. The front door was open, too. Whoever had been there had left in a hurry. Mrs. Edgerton called Amy's home. Mrs. Norland answered. Is Amy there? No, she isn't. Who's calling, please? This is Elise Edgerton. Is this Amy's mother? Yes. Isn't she at your house? She left a message that she was going to babysit for you today. She did babysit, but when I got home, the house was empty and the doors were open. Amy and Kendra are both gone. There's a crudely written, unsigned note from someone who says he or she has Kendra. I'm waiting for the police to arrive. Mrs. Norland sat down, trying to process this information. Your daughter was kidnapped while Amy was taking care of her? Disbelief made Mrs. Norland's voice sound too high. It squeaked on the last word. It's possible that both of our daughters were kidnapped. All I know for sure is that Kendra and Amy aren't here, and there's a note from someone who claims to have Kendra. Does the note mention Amy? No. Are there signs of a struggle? No. Amy would never let someone she doesn't know into your house. Maybe he had a weapon. Maybe the girls were playing outside. Mrs. Norland closed her eyes, not wanting to imagine such a scene. Amy's purse is still here, Mrs. Edgerton said. What's your address? Mrs. Norland asked. I'll come over. As Kendra's mother gave the address, Mrs. Norland heard sirens in the background. The police are here, Mrs. Edgerton said. I'm on my way. Mrs. Norland turned off the oven, grabbed her keys, and rushed out to her car. The last time she had talked to the police officers, they had come to the office to tell her that her husband was dead. Could tragedy strike her a second time? No, she thought. No. Amy's all I have left. Amy had to be okay, and the little Edgerton girl too. If anything happened to Amy, Mrs. Norland didn't think she would be able to go on. Amy did not recognize the road that they were on. She knew they had driven south on Interstate 5, but after they left the freeway, nothing looked familiar. The roads they took got more narrow, the houses more sparse. Tubby hungry, Kendra said. Tubby want French fries. She needs some food, Amy said. It's her dinner time. Tough, said Smokey. We'll be there soon, said Hugh. He looked at Smokey. Your girlfriend was going to make sure we had food on hand, he said. If she's out of the picture, did you do it? Not exactly. Not exactly. What does that mean? Either you bought food or you didn't. When I checked the place last week, there was a jar of peanut butter. Tubby like peanut butter, said Kendra. That's all, said Hugh. 4 of us are supposed to live for a week on 1 jar of peanut butter. We can buy what we need, Smokey said. Don't make such a big deal out of it. There's a little store back before we reach the turnoff to the cabin. Okay, we'll stop there. You can go in and load up. Tubby like tacos? Said Kendra. What else does Tubby like? Asked Amy. They might as well buy what Kendra would eat. It was going to be hard enough to keep the child happy without offering food she didn't want. Tubby like biscotti and grilled cheese and pudding. Who's this Tubby character? Smokey asked. Her cat, Amy said. What cat? Smokey said. I'm not wasting my money on cat food. It isn't a real cat, Hugh said. They drove a few minutes in silence. Hugh said, Darielle is on vacation. How are you going to get the DVDs to the Edgertons? You said Darielle would meet you each day and deliver them. Not a problem, Smokey said. Oh, no? You hadn't thought of that, had you? You never think. I'll mail them, Smokey said. That takes too long. Darielle was going to deliver the first one tonight. Even if you film it today, you won't be able to mail it till tomorrow. It'll be Wednesday at the earliest before they get it. I could send it to FedEx or UPS. They have overnight delivery. Oh, brilliant. Great idea. That way the package can be traced to where it was sent from, and the clerk who takes it from you can give the cops a good description. Some of those places even have surveillance cameras in case somebody tries to send a bomb to the president. So I'll mail the DVDs. What's the difference if it takes a day or 2 longer? I can drop them off in one of those drive-up boxes in front of the post office. This slows us down, Hugh said. We'll lose a whole day, maybe 2. Do you have a better suggestion? I do, Amy said. You could drop us off right now, and then you won't have to worry about mail delivery. Smokey glared at her in the rearview mirror with such anger that Amy decided she should keep quiet and not annoy him. I should have said no, Hugh said. This is the most harebrained scheme I ever heard of. Saddling ourselves with 2 kids for a whole week while you show off how great you are with your new camcorder. Let's just demand our ransom right away in the first video. We're going to build suspense, Smokey said. That's the whole point. Every time the Edgertons get another DVD, they'll be even more anxious to get their kid back. By the time they see the last film, where we tell them how much money we want and where they should leave it, they'll agree to anything. If we ask right away, they might say no. And then what'll we do? Amy thought it unlikely that Kendra's parents would refuse to pay a ransom immediately, and she didn't see how videos would influence them, but she said nothing. Smokey seemed unbalanced, and she knew it would be foolish to disagree with him. What about the other kid? You going to put her in the movies too? Well, sure, Smokey smirked. Might as well have 2 sets of parents growing more and more desperate.